This is our sixth lecture on World War One, and you can see this is a map of Europe after World War One. This is 1922, and some changes have been made. So we're going to call this one Global Peacemaker, meaning that's the role that the United States is going to try to play in the post-World War One era, with some snappy tunes from the 1920s. That's enough of that. All right, first off, we have something called the Meeting at Versailles. This is in Paris. That's why you say Versailles as opposed to Versailles, like like in West Scranton, maybe. So after World War One and the bad guys team surrenders, there were a number of peace treaty meetings, and each treaty was signed with a different nation. So the one that becomes the most important and the one that everybody talks about is the Treaty at Versailles. And this is at Louis XIV, the Sun King's palace in Versailles. Well, at this meeting were delegates representing the 32 victorious nations. Now, we didn't talk about 32 victorious nations. There was a lot of teams on the good guys team. But we only talk about the major ones, the ones who are the biggest part of the story. So you can see at the meeting there, all the good guys teams are sitting around the table. Now, the Central Powers, the bad guys, the losers in this scenario, are not invited. So basically, this treaty is going to be worked out without asking, in this case, Germany, for any input. See, the French wanted to severely punish Germany and make it incapable of ever doing something like this again. The French leader at the time was Clemenceau. France really got beat up in this war, and they really blamed Germany for it. The trenches and all the destruction of their transportation and communication, it's just all gone. Their industry is destroyed. Now, President Wilson from the United States is coming in, and he's trying to tell everybody to, forgive and forget, and he's looking for a generous peace. And his concern is that Germany is so powerful with industrial capacity that if we punish Germany so badly, their economy is going to just go right down the drain. And if the German economy goes down the drain, the German economy is kind of the heartbeat of the European economy. So if Germany goes down the drain, then all of Europe goes down the drain. And as Europe goes, the world tends to go too. So Wilson comes in, and he's trying to seek a generous peace. Now, when he got there, he was greeted as a hero. They threw a big parade for him in France, and he is greeted as a hero. But at the same time, the French leadership is like, listen, your nation didn't get beat up. We lost millions and millions of people, and our nation is completely war-torn. There's trenches everywhere. Our industry's destroyed. And who are you to come in here and tell us, like, you were only here for the last year? He wasn't interested in the spoils of war. There's a famous saying, to the victors go the spoils, the rewards of war. He didn't want any of that. He wanted to go back to being isolated. His plan for the world was to be made safe for every peace-loving nation. And he had included within this 14 points. And this ends up becoming known as Wilson's 14 points. Now you can see Wilson with the American delegation. If you ever notice, like a lot of the old pictures, like people don't look really happy. They look kind of stern. And a lot of the times it was because they didn't know when that flash bulb was going to go off. And back then the cameras had this giant flash bulb that would help take the picture. Well, if you didn't know when the flash bulb was going off, you didn't know when to smile. And so you got tired of smiling for a while, and you just waited and waited and waited, and poof, then they have the picture. And the next thing you know, you got this picture. So we have the French who want to really punish the Germans, and you have the Americans who are trying to say forgive and forget. And then you have Lloyd George from Britain, who is, the British are kind of famous for their, they want to compromise. They want to find that middle ground. And that's kind of where they want to go here. They're trying to find somewhere that we can all come to an agreement on how to punish Germany. So you could see there's actually 4 people in the picture. We were talking about 3 of them. To the far left, looking as British as he can, is David Lloyd George. And then you see Clemenceau talking to him with his finger pointed up. Then the guy on the far right, the tall guy, that's Woodrow Wilson from the United States. The guy in the middle, we didn't really get into, but he is Vittorio Orlando. He is in charge of Italy. And Italy was also at the meeting, as were 30 other nations or 28 other nations, I guess. And so they tried to get involved in this as well. But when you look at him, it's hard not to notice that he looks a lot, well, he looks like 2 things. One, he looks like a walrus, an actual walrus. As a matter of fact, he may be the most human-looking walrus we've ever seen. Or walrus-looking human, I guess would be the right way to put it. But if, depending on how many what kind of games you like to play, if you like board games, you might notice that he looks a lot like the Monopoly guy. Just missing the hat. That's all he's missing. And the cane, I guess. But I'm sure he's got a top hat, and a cane. I guarantee he brought it with him. All right, so let's talk about the Treaty of Versailles. There it is, in case you ever run into it. That's what it looks like. So the French pretty much get what they wanted on this scenario. The treaty is going to include many of the French demands, including a war guilt clause, which blames Germany. Now, did Germany start this thing? No. But they're the ones who backed it. They're the ones who gave the blank check to Austria-Hungary after they had their potential leader, their future leader, assassinated. And then they stripped Germany of its overseas colonies and many regions along its borders. So this is what you did, like to the victors go the spoils, right? So the good guys are going to get the bad guys' stuff. So Germany's already, its industry is all destroyed, because just like for the French industry and everybody else in Europe, their factories and their transportation, their trains and their roads, it's all destroyed. But one of the other things you were able to take away that was valuable from Germany was stuff that it owned outside of its borders. So what you're looking at is, obviously German territorial losses according to the Versailles Treaty. So Germany will remain to be what is red, but it used to be also what is pink. So you can see that they lost, up here. You can see they lost this corner up here to Lithuania. They lose this area here to Poland, this one and this one. This one goes to Czechoslovakia. This area goes to Poland. This becomes known as the Polish Corridor. And it's called that because here's Poland over here. And Poland's always had a problem. They've been landlocked. They don't have access to ports. So everybody around them kind of controlled Poland's trade and their economy. So this gives Poland this land and this water that takes you into the Baltic Sea. Baltic Sea takes you into the North Sea, and then you can actually get around this, up and around Denmark there. And then from the North Sea into the Atlantic Ocean. And now Poland would have access to potential trade with the rest of the world. This area up here is ceded to Denmark. And this area down here, right here, becomes known as Rhineland. It's actually like this area goes to Belgium, this little area goes to France, and the rest of this becomes known as Rhineland. It becomes actually an independent country, and the point was to make it a DMZ, a demilitarized zone, that is going to put a buffer between France over here and Germany right here. So this was going to be kind of a way to keep the two from sharing a border and trying to go back and forth and taking this land, because that's what was happening. This land was fought between the British and the French and the Germans over hundreds and hundreds of years because it's extremely valuable land. So Germany, not only is all their major industry destroyed within what is red, they also lose all this and all this and this and this. Now, the thing is that the people who live there are still German, by the way, right? They're still German. They speak German. They grew up German. Now, these people over here, are told, well, you don't live in Germany anymore. Now you live in Poland. So now you're going to pay your taxes to Poland, and you're going to serve the Polish government. And you guys over here, you're part of Czechoslovakia, which nobody even heard of at this point. We're going to come back to that. Then these people over here, you now live in the Rhineland. Nobody wants to live in the Rhineland. They used to be Germany. Now they're Rhineland. This area, now you're French, and now you're Belgian, and now you're in Denmark. And this is what just happened. They were forced to pay reparations. Reparations are payments for economic injury from war. Okay, that means that all these nations suffered this great economic loss, so Germany now owes all this money. So now you're going to ask Germany to pay all these bills. You're going to take away a lot of their colonies in order that they would use to make money, and their industries have been destroyed from the war. So this isn't going to go well. Germany has no money to pay. They're hit with a bill for $33 billion. They're also forced to disarm. Now, you can't take away an entire military of a nation. Like after the war is over, you can't tell a country that they can't defend themselves. So they were going to be allowed to have an army of up to 100,000 men, and that's it. Okay, they can't go beyond that. Now, if anybody knows their history, you know that World War II is coming. You know that Germany is going to create it, and they're going to have a much bigger army than 100,000. So somehow, some way, they're going to get around this one. Now, some of Wilson's ideas did get accepted into the Treaty of Versailles, but not many. One was the idea of national self-determination. What that means is within Europe, there are a bunch of ethnic groups that did not have their own country. So this gave them a chance to have their own country. And so you're going to see some new nations pop up. Also, we created something called the League of Nations. The League of Nations, the idea of it was an organization in which the nations of the world would join together to ensure security and peace for all of its members. And that's a great idea. The problem with the League of Nations is, well, we don't have it anymore because it didn't stop World War II from happening. There were a lot of flaws within the League of Nations. And so this is a great idea. It's with good intention, but the design and the implementation are not good. There's the actual League of Nations in Geneva, Switzerland, but it doesn't exist anymore. The building might still be there, but the League of Nations is not. All right, so we said that there were going to be some new nations popping up here, and that's exactly what's going to happen. So first, you're going to see that the Empire of Austria-Hungary was split into the individual states of Austria, Hungary, and Czechoslovakia. So you can see right here, Austria, Hungary, and Czechoslovakia. This becomes a new nation, Czechoslovakia, and Austria-Hungary, which was one, this Austria-Hungary was this whole big thing. It's now broken into Austria and Hungary, and now we have Czechoslovakia. The kingdom of the Serbs, the Croats, and the Slovenes becomes Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia is right here. There's Yugoslavia. So this was part of the whole Austro-Hungarian Empire as well. But remember, when the Archduke was assassinated, it was because somebody from this region, the Black Hand group led by Gavrilo Princip from this region, were fighting for Serbian independence. That's why they shot him, and they wanted to get attention for their cause. And in the end, it worked. Their act of terrorism started the war, and then they got what they wanted. Poland is back. Okay, so if you don't remember, Poland, the Polish people have always been here, but Poland had gotten swallowed up by the other European nations. Now Poland has its borders back and again has this Polish corridor that takes you to the Baltic Sea, and you can see it better from the Baltic Sea. You could get around Denmark into the North Sea, and then from the North Sea, you could get through the English Channel, or you can go above Great Britain and get into the Atlantic Ocean, which opens up your opportunities to trade with everybody. And the Ottoman Empire is reduced. That's this area down here, and it would keep going this way if we could keep going that way. Was reduced to Istanbul and a small part of Asia Minor, today best known as Turkey. Turkey. And Greece occupied the western part of Asia Minor. That's over here. Where'd it go? That's this area right in here. Okay, so a lot of changes have been made to the map of Europe. You're being rickrolled right now. God, I hope you know what that means. All right. As a result, we now have 20 million people in Eastern and Central Europe who fought in this war for nationalism, who now live as minorities in nations to which they feel no allegiance. So all those people who lived in what was Germany before, and now they live in Poland, or they live in Denmark, or they live in France, they don't want to live in France and in Poland and in Czechoslovakia and in Denmark. They want to be German. They speak German. They grew up German. Everything about them is German. So they have no allegiance and are not proud of what they are right now. Their anger over the new post-war borders sowed seeds for future conflicts. And see those three dots? Those three dots are dots of impending doom. They mean, they basically each dot stands for dun, dun, dun. So their anger over the new post-war boundaries or borders sowed seeds for future conflicts. The guy singing is Rick Astley, and a lot of people think that Rick Astley should run for president. Even though he's technically, I think, an Irish citizen. But his campaign slogan is already, fantastic. You've all heard it. He's never going to give you up. He's never going to let you down. He's never going to run around and desert you. He's never going to make you cry. Never going to say goodbye. And he's never going to tell a lie and hurt you. So there you go. Rick Astley for president. Maybe 2024.